And now here's part 2 of our episode. Okay, that is a remarkable song. You said that there are several transcendent songs. Why is this the transcendent song to you, Gil?
I'm not even sure if it's my favorite. I mean, this is the kind of album where I listen to it, and it's pretty much whichever song I'm listening to at that moment is probably my favorite. You got to understand about this. I don't even really consider. I mean, it is a musical. It also feels more like almost like a pageant to me, like a church pageant, and also like a live concert with some of the best gospel people, Pentecostal gospel artists you've ever, that live on the earth. And I feel like this one did a great job of encapsulating like as many people as possible. So this album, you've got the Blind Boys of Alabama. They're all collectively playing Oedipus. They're led by Clarence Fountain. He's the guy that you hear on the track who's like, "It's so hard for me, hope for me, prophecy." And then you have the Soul Stirrers who are doing background. The Steel Singers are playing pretty much Oedipus's children. And then you have Jovita Steele, the soloist of this. And I think, for me personally, is the MVP of the album.
She's right up there. She's right up there for sure. I think you could also make a case for Sam Butler being the MVP.
Oh yeah, I mean, any person you say is the MVP, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense because they're all incredibly talented. I remember, this song specifically.
Yeah.
What I love about what she does is she doesn't pretend. All right, so this is a song about it's how shall I see you through my tears? I'm literally crying so much I can't even see you. Just like her father can't see her because he's blinded himself. So instead of pretending to cry or forcing herself to cry, like how shall I see you through my tears, doing all that actor stuff, there's none of that. She chooses which phrases she wants to belt and which phrases she wants to sing softly. And then they go up and down, and that's like someone who's weeping. When you're weeping, sometimes you're wailing, sometimes you're catching your breath. And so her performance paints the entire picture of someone in mourning without ever taking away from the music. She's still singing beautifully, but she's giving you the idea of someone who is like crying. And it's never indulgent. She's an absolutely transcendent singer. And her brothers and sisters, as later on in the album, when they do Numberless of the World's Wonders, they have such incredible chemistry, and they're backing her up on this song, and it's really incredible. But my favorite part of this song is the bridge. It starts off, "Destiny brings you back to me," and you hear everyone else kind of joining in. You get to hear Jovita, you get to hear her brothers singing, "Destiny brings you back to me." And then you have that great monologue by Isabella Monk O'Connor talking about the sons. I'm going to try not to talk too much about the staging because I have the DVD of the staging. The two brothers that have been backing her up suddenly start just climbing up the stairs next to the choir, and that's during the ooh, and they're just climbing up, just like they're kind of climbing at each other, just reaching for power. Such a beautiful image. And Morgan Freeman's coming down, and Morgan Freeman takes on the role of Oedipus in that moment, and he just gets angry and let them who would be the kings of thieves for the sons of Oedipus, let them kill each other. And that's something you don't hear Morgan Freeman do a lot, is get really, really pissed off. You normally hear, you can hear him chuckle. You rarely hear him laugh. That's what makes Seven such a good movie, because he laughs and it's unsettling.
Oh my God, yeah.
One of the things about musicals is that they give you, when something particularly beautiful is happening on stage with the sound and the music and everything, it can give you goosebumps. And an example of that would be like in Cats, when that one raggedy cat is like, "Touch me," and the whole music swells up and you kind of get goosebumps. It's a beautiful moment. Musicals also give you cringe moments where you have secondhand embarrassment for the performers.
I think you could even say theater in general. That's one of the but
Perhaps.
musicals do have
musicals dial it up to 11 for me at least. And so
there's a little bit of a risk, right? There's a little bit of a risk by adding this extra layer of artifice onto it, right? It's further and further away from real life.
And an example of that for me would be every other moment that happens in Cats. every other moment that happens in Cats is just pure. You wince out of the embarrassment for what you're seeing on screen or on stage. Sorry.
Well, both.
Yeah.
Bless them. I hope they're okay.
What I did was I wanted to prove why this is a perfect musical.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've been doing is I've been going through the list of musicals that I've seen, and I've jotted down every moment where I winced, where that made me cringe, and every moment that gave me goosebumps. And I've measured them. This is the chart. So I've made a scatter plot, and I'm going to share it with you all, and you can put it on your Instagram, and you can show people. This is the quality of stage musicals proven mathematically.
Okay. Great.
Do we have it up?
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right.
Okay. So as you can see, these are the musicals that I have seen on stage and how I measure them. So what? And you can do this at home. It's a simple Excel sheet. You put your x-axis is moments that made you wince or cringe. That's another word for it. And then your y is the moments that gave you goosebumps. Now, as you can, so what you really want is to be as close to the y-axis as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to be anywhere on the x-axis.
Right.
So as you can see, this is just some highlights that I'm going to share. The Tina Turner musical. Not a great show, I don't think.
Is it just like a jukebox musical?
It's a jukebox musical. They're kind of basic, but, her music is great. So as you can see here, there might be a point of contention because there was an episode where Eric...
Eric Richardson, friend of the pod,
claims that the album for Company does in fact go to 11. I would have to disagree. As you can see on this thing, it made me cringe 2 times and never gave me a goosebump.
Okay, well, were you talking about the Raul Esparza version?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's
fair. The one we watched together during quarantine.
Yeah,
didn't care for it. There's other things on the as you can see, a lot of them just kind of like they give me a few cringe moments. They give me a few moments of goosebumps. They all kind of go towards the left-hand side. And then if you look onwards, you see 3 musicals: Hair, Cats, and Spring Awakening. That are all just resting there right on the x-axis. Now, I'll give you Cats gave me 1 goosebump, Hair gave me 1 goosebump. Spring Awakening was all cringe. Spring Awakening is all cringe because Spring Awakening, the entire thing is cringe when you realize that all of these children are going to grow up and become people in the Third Reich.
Yeah, I mean it's the thing that's floating in the air, isn't it?
I'll tell you one thing. I remember going to, I had some friends that were in that play, and I went to the cast party, and they were like, you know what, I'd love to see a sequel about what happened to our characters. I say, they've already made a sequel, and it ends with all of you children chasing Julie Andrews into the mountains.
You're not wrong, Gil. You're not wrong. I want to point out here, it looks like you had Sunday in the Park with George had no Goosebumps moments, huh?
Yeah, absolutely not. I was bored all the way through. I'll be honest, I'm not even sure I stayed awake through it. That was one of those things where they had projections up on the stage to just make up for the fact that that's a boring show.
So, hot takes. You come to this one goes to 11 for your hot takes on music.
I'm going to make a lot of enemies tonight.
I love it. I'm seeing one Goosebumps moment from Beautiful, the Carole King jukebox musical.
Yes, that was during Do the Locomotion.
Oh, interesting.
I started weeping.
So Far Away was the one for me. That was the one.
Yeah, really didn't care for it. I like to Do the Locomotion.
Damn, I'm going to give you 60,000 points for the scatter plot. This is well done. This is the kind of content we hope for from you, Gilbert.
I feel like with musicals, there's also like an aspect of like insidious enthusiasm that makes me uncomfortable with it, and it's there's like a vocal quality that I think a lot of like if you were to play a jukebox musical of like I don't know like a rock band or something. And you were to play me the same track done by the rock band and then the same one done by the musical, even if you're using the same instruments and the same amount of people, I would be able to say that's a musical.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, if you listen to American Idiot or like the Alanis Morissette music, Jagged Little Pill, like
Mhm.
say what you will, whether or not you care for Green Day or Alanis Morissette, but like when it becomes the theater version of it, yeah, it just sounds. There's something in the vocal quality that just feels. I mean, to me, it feels inauthentic, frankly.
And that is one of the reasons why I love Gospel at Colonus so much. So there's a little part in this album called "Who Is This Man?" It's like a 20-second thing. It wasn't on the original album, but they put it in here because Martin J. Cox is singing, and he's like the antithesis of that voice. Like it's got grit, it's got character, it's got power, and I love that he hits that high note, and maybe a vocal coach would be like he didn't hit it perfectly, but his commitment like transcends any idea of perfection. He just is like, you can tell he is feeling the music in that moment. And, maybe his vocal cords, aren't, being taken care of, but he sounds great.
You believe it. You believe it.
I believe it.
To what we were talking about the satisfaction element in part one, like the whole thing is that it just kind of, it when you hear it, right? You just know, the truth when you hear it. And that's what makes this podcast interesting, because you see where people's targets are, right? You see where people's you get to have a sense of like what people crave from music. There's that spiritual quality that people crave from it, and this completely makes sense to me why this one works for you. I want to ask you. So we talked about your standards for perfection, but like let's talk more about like how you discovered this piece.
I remember exactly. A man by the name of Bill O'Connor.
William O'Connor. I was hoping that he was the one.
I was in one of his classes. It was a history class. I'll tell you, if there were more people like William O'Connor in colleges and stuff, maybe I would have enjoyed school.
Excellent teacher.
I think he's a great person and a wise man.
Yeah. I
remember doing some like lesson on Greek theater and such, and how to I guess what it felt like to be in that, because I'll be honest, like if I were to just see a standard Greek play, it's not going to do much for me. Sure. There's not a lot going on. It's just sort of, if you look at the synopsis of this play, it's like 5 things happen, and most of it's just sort of like, I'm here. So he was teaching us about, different adaptations of this material. He hooks up the VHS player to the projector because the school had a VHS copy of Gospel at Colonus, and he was telling us about it, puts it in. He had me at Morgan Freeman Plays the Preacher. I was already like, I'm on board. This sounds great. And I remember, it starts off. So my first introduction to this wasn't the album; it was the video recording that has the same audio.
Yeah.
And so I just remember the first time I heard the opening tracks, "Live Where You Can." What I love about "Live Where You Can" is it's just the perfect beginning. You've got like the opening chords that Bob Telson himself is playing. Like he's in the band. Bob Telson, who wrote it, he's playing, and everything else just sort of flows out from that. Like the organ, the guitar, the drums. He plays those first chords, and everything else just seamlessly comes into the picture. Almost like it's like, I feel like those opening chords are like the blades going into Oedipus's eyes and everything just bleeding out from there.
Yeah,
it's like
million points for that.
And so you're taking in all this great music, and then it gets quiet, as if to say, all right, guys, listen. And then you hear the words, which chill me to my core. Let every man consider his last day. When youthful pleasures have faded away, can he look at his life without pain? I'll be honest with you. I'm afraid of death. Every night when I go to bed, I pray that I don't die. It scares me. It frightens me. It's absolutely terrifying to me. And this album confronts that through some of the most jubilant music I've ever heard.
Yeah.
When I was saying earlier about that moment listening to that song, "The Righteous Cry Out," which I heard as "The Righteous Fire," I felt the same when it got to that first stanza of "Live Where You Can," and just hearing that sonic blast of the chorus just coming at me, even on VHS from like the little crappy speakers that are attached to the projection. Just that sound just hitting me, and Javita Steele just like pulling me right in the heartstrings. I'll never forget that moment. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, I have to find this album. I think this is already my favorite musical. And I was like, I was 20 seconds in. That day in class, we got to like the 23-minute mark. So we had just finished How Shall I See You Through My Tears. So you hear the beginning tracks. There's a great track in the beginning called Fair Colonus. And I think I had heard one time, it may have been Stephen
That's Willie Rogers, right? Willie Rogers.
Yes, Willie Rogers, who does the ending song too, or leads the ending
Spectacular,
song.
Yeah.
Oh, he's incredible. So I heard, I may have been Sondheim. I think he said there shouldn't be a musical number in a show without a strong emotional reason. Like a character has to be feeling such a strong emotions that they have to get it out through song. I think this song disproves that, because this song is essentially just an exposition dump. I mean, there's really no emotional reason for this guy to sing. It's just Oedipus comes up and he's like, hey guys, can you guys tell me where I am right now? Because as you can see, I can't. This guy's like, yeah, you're in Colonus. We got horses. We got ivy. We got sweet sojourning nightingales. And so that would be really boring for an audience. But if you have somebody as talented as Willie Rogers, give it to him, and he'll just make it an incredible a cappella. I mean, Bob Tellison wrote it too, but it's like, it is an exposition dump, but it's a beautiful exposition dump. And it actually, I listened to it today, and you can hear the leader of the Five Blind Boys of Alabama, Clarence Fountain. You can hear him in the background, which I had never noticed before, like repeating back phrases that he heard. I loved it.
Your point of, first of all, I just want to make it clear that I gave you 1,000,000 points for talking about the opening notes to this being like the blades going into Oedipus's eyes. Yes. I also wanted to what you're saying about how there's probably something about Willie Rogers being such a charismatic performer that makes this exposition song work in the context of the show. It makes me wonder. So to add the real world to this, we're gonna try to go see this show next month, right, Gil? Yeah. That's what it's gonna be at the Court Theater in Chicago, and I'm gonna be in Chicago next month. Very excited to see some theater with you, buddy. But I'll be interested to see how it lands with other people than this cast performing it, because this is one of those shows, and this is one of those, even if you just isolate the album, it's one of those albums that makes you wonder, oh my God, does this only work because these people, they caught lightning in a bottle with these particular people doing this in this particular way? Is it going to be as effective? And I mean, I think probably the answer is that it's never going to live up quite right to what you have. You have this encapsulated memory of this show, this encapsulated experience of the show. So it's never going to quite live up to that. But I mean, there is part of me that thinks that is this more about these performers themselves than what they're singing?
Michael, do you have thoughts? I feel like I've been talking over you.
You haven't. I actually want to go back to the thing you said about how it sort of like addresses your fear of death, because I think that, I have shown this clips from this when I've taught theater history, because I think when you're teaching ancient Greek theater and you're trying to convey what those plays are wrestling with and what they're trying to get us mere mortals to confront, it's hard for a contemporary audience to see how Greek theater works. Because A, we don't know, and B, there's this weird chorus that's there that I feel like rarely have I seen a production of an ancient Greek play where the chorus is used effectively. I'm always like, why are they doing that? What's happening here? And I remember showing this example to students and them having this realization of like, oh, this is how Greek theater works. Because I think it's the closest modern equivalent is having this, this sermon, this Pentecostal gospel service is maybe, I would argue, the closest equivalent we have to what ancient Greek theater was. And I think that it finds a way to get you to wrestle with those universal things that would normally be, either difficult to contemplate or contemplating them would fall heavy on your cringe scale there, Gil. But like because of the format, it's all the way up on the goosebump axis. And I think that's, I mean, for me, like it's just sort of, you can spend like 2 weeks explaining the Dionysian festival and like what, Aristotle's definition of tragedy and all this stuff, or you could just show gospel of Colonus and students go, oh, okay, I get what they're wrestling with.
Well said. Well said. It is funny how I also want to go back to the thing that you said, that like 5 things happen in this play, right? Because they really are. It is one of those plays where they're just talking about stuff that's already happened off stage.
It's the play. It's the one that we don't cover in theater history because nothing happens in it. We cover Oedipus Rex and we cover Antigone, and we leave out Colonus.
The fact that they're processing all of this as like a community, and it's just them talking about it, but you're still taken on the emotional journey, is pretty remarkable. And there's a freedom, there's a looseness with which it's done, continuous, like it really is, it just keeps going. Like there are obviously moments of silence, but it's really operatic. It feels almost more like an opera than musical theater proper to me in that way.
Did you watch the video?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so you both did. Cool. Yeah.
For context, the way I prepared for this one was because I think, shout out to Bill O'Connor again, like a really incredible teacher. I feel like he probably showed it to me, but the first time I ever remember seeing this was with you in the living room many years ago. And so in preparation for this, I first listened to it just on its own terms as an album, and then I did watch the recorded version that's on YouTube. You obviously don't get the full scope of it without watching it, but the impact is pretty much there, and you really hear the language very clearly, which is something that I think is always. It took me far less time to sort of like get my heightened text ears on, like I usually would with like a Greek play or a Shakespeare play or something like that. You know what I mean?
Hey, listeners, if you like this album, I would say do what Tyler did. Listen to the album first, fall in love with the album, and then watch the video. There are some songs that appear on the video that aren't on the album. There's one song that's on the album that's not in the video. I think maybe they were trying to like cut down for time to fit, because this was a great performances on PBS. So I think they were probably trying to cut down the time stamp. And if you have to get one, maybe Lift Me Up Like a Dove doesn't like add too much to the story. It's still a great song. I will say this. When you said you can't get the full scope, and maybe you can't get the full scope of it, but if there's one song that I urge your listeners to watch on the video, it is Never Drive You Away.
Never Drive You Away. Okay. Why is that?
So one, it's what I call an old landmark. The Old Landmark is a classic gospel song, and it's probably my favorite gospel song. It's the one from Blues Brothers that James Brown sings.
Oh yeah, okay.
So many people have great covers of it. Aretha Franklin does a great one on her gospel album. It's a quintessential gospel song, and I call them old landmarks because it's one of those ones that is a lot of piano bass and just sort of it's jubilant. I mean, it's one of those ones where you would see people, either dancing in the aisles, fanning themselves. And when that song hits in the recorded version, the whole place just explodes. I mean, they have a camera mounted on the choir stairs, on the bleachers of the choir, and the camera is shaking. It's almost like the media of cinema cannot contain the joy that is in that room. Like it is infectious, and I can't wait to see it live.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Yeah, especially that moment. I mean, the whole thing, but like this, I mean, that's one, and just the way that Lincoln Schleifer, the bass guitarist, is just making that bass dance on that song,
taking it for a walk.
It's really incredible.
The one thing that I was thinking about, because, when we're prepping for these episodes, we listen to these albums in very different capacities, at the gym or while making dinner or in the car or walking to work or that sort of thing. And something like this, which strikes me as having such a clear dramatic arc for me, it felt a little weird to listen to at the gym for some reason. I'm wondering, like, when you listen to this now, Gil, like what's the ideal occasion or reason to put this on?
I have a story about maybe the best time I've ever listened to this album. Would you want to hear that?
Oh, yes.
I was on a plane. I can't even remember what trip it was, but I remember feeling down, like on the plane. Like I just felt like a real piece of crap. For some reason, just like not sick or anything, just emotionally, like I was just feeling sorry for myself. And I get on the plane, and for some reason, like midway through, I felt like we were either going to crash or I was going to die up there. I don't know what had happened, but it was like the heat was getting to me. The thing wasn't working on the air, and I was. It may have been like a mild panic thing. I don't know. I felt like I was gonna pull a Carrie Fisher. Like I felt like I was gonna die in the air and nobody was gonna do everything. Like I drafted out a text to my mom that would just send later and just be like, please tell everyone I love them and I love you. But I had this downloaded on my phone, so I could listen to it without anything, without internet connection. And I put it on, and it moved me so much and calmed me down. And I don't know, I'm not ready for death, but I'll tell you this: in that moment, I think I was like, if you're going to take me now, I can be listening to this album, and I'm ready for it, because, as Morgan Freeman says, now let the weeping cease. Let no one mourn again. These things are in the hands of God. And that is, and I remember just feeling like such a peace hearing that last line. That whole last song that Willie Rogers is singing, the things he adds to it. He touched my heart, now I can see, because it is just the same four songs, the same four lyrics going over and over again, repeating. But he adds more and more each time, and then Morgan Freeman wraps it all up beautifully. I think that's probably my favorite song on the album. I can't think of a time. There are often times where I have to stop the album because I'm in a public place and I don't want to start weeping. Which is ironic because the song's called "Now Let the Weeping Cease," and it ain't happening for this guy.
This is maybe I think one of the best points you brought about this thing is it is life affirming, which is not a word you really hear about Greek plays very often, right? I think most of the time you hear depressing, you hear dark, those kind of things. Those sort of like, it is the mining of the midnight, the midnight sections of the soul. Really, that is what at least Greek tragedy, has done. But they managed to make this deeply life affirming, and jubilant is another word you keep using. Like there's few better words to describe the feeling you get after listening to the finale of this piece. Gil, we could talk to you for hours. We have to talk to you for hours. We will talk to you for hours for the rest of our lives. But unfortunately, we got a little time limit on here. I'm not sure if you knew, Gil, but this is a competition. Were you aware that this is about winning?
If I haven't figured it out by 40 some episodes, I'll never figure it out. Or however, what are we on?
What is it? 30? I think we're just about to hit 40, right?
I think you're episode 41, Gil. I think.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Not counting the minisodes and the little bonus stuff.
Okay, yeah, I'm counting them.
Well, then we're over 50 if that's the case.
Yeah,
we're well over 50.
Yeah.
But it is about winning. You came to win. You did your homework. I think you did a bang up job, but we're gonna have to go to the board to see how you did. All right, you ready for that?
I'm ready.
All right. So the most recent points I gave you were 1,000,000 points for the opening notes to this piece being like the blades going into Oedipus's eyes. Hell of an image. You are a wordsmith after all. I gave you 60,000 points for your scatter plot that you made for us. This is the first time that anyone has prepared and brought a visual aid. This is really a good thing, and it's going to be even better when we get to video eventually. You never know when that might happen. In total, I gave you 30,000 points. I bumped it up to 30,000 points for your standards for perfection. The fact that you said it is patently ridiculous that anyone would say that a perfect album can have skips. That's a take that I'm happy with. I gave you 700,000 points plus 77 extra points for the righteous fire that inspired you to fight a demon with your bare fists. 400 points for a somewhat wedding that you went to for your sister a few years ago. Shout out to Aaron. Hope you're doing well. I gave you 7,000 points for Saturday Night Fever being your first, not only the first CD that you requested that to be your first CD. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
You wanted it. Oh, great. So that was, I gave you 7,000 points for that. You gave Michael a great job for his recap of Gospel at Colonus.
Now I feel bad. You're giving me all these like millions of points, and I gave you a great job.
No, great job. That holds a lot of value. Don't worry. That's good credit.
Michael, how about this? There are approximately 98 freckles on Morgan Freeman's face. I give you 102 freckles on Morgan Freeman's face. I'll give you 4 extra freckles.
102 freckles on Morgan Freeman's face.
All right, I'll take it. Maybe I think his
dermatologist. Oh, real quick.
Yeah.
The one tidbit I wanted to share.
Yeah.
Tyler, do you know who did the original album? Not this one, but the original studio album.
I guess I missed it. Who did?
Who produced it? Donald Fagen.
Donald damn Fagen.
Yeah, this has and the Cats guy. What's his name? Somebody Katz. But yeah, the producer.
Gary, I think it was Gary Katz.
Right? Yeah, Gary Katz and Donald Fagen. They
Steely Dan guys. In case you're wondering, everybody, it's the Steely Dan guys.
They saw the original and then we're like, let's put it on a studio album. The studio album's great too. But yeah,
I missed that. Oh well, then God, Gil, you just did it. You did a bang up job here.
Yeah, all right. I wanted to be the one to give you that tidbit because I
love that.
Yeah,
you know what? You get 3 million extra points for that.
Oh, there we go. Right under the radar.
By the skin of your teeth. All right, 3 million points for Donald Fagen and Gary Katz. Love you, boys. So, brings us to the moment of truth. Michael, you heard the case that Gil made. You've heard about the points on the board, including that extra 3 million there right at the death.
And the 4 freckles.
And the 102 freckles.
Yeah, well, the bonus.
That means that Gil counted those freckles.
Yeah.
Bless him. So tell us, tell the listeners, is Gospel at Colonus a perfect album? Does it go to 11?
It sure as heaven does.
Are y'all ever going to switch? Are y'all ever going to switch and do like Michael giving points and Tyler doing the judge? I mean, you don't have to. It's your podcast.
We've talked about it a little bit.
It could be fun. It could be fun.
We've settled into our roles right now. I feel like it's a part of the relationship where eventually we'll have to spice things up. It's a part of this artistic marriage.
You know what? Figure out a Tuesday that's on April 1st and then do that. For April Fool's Day.
April Fools.
Yeah.
Would you be open to it, Michael? Are you interested in that? You interested
in doing the points?
Yeah.
I don't know. I sort of feel. Well, we'll talk about it. That would be season 6 would be the potential. I don't know when April 1st is in 2024, but we'll look into it. We'll look into it.
Yeah, we will. And if anybody has privileges for making requests like that, it's you, Gil.
Oh, I appreciate it.
This was super fun, Gil.
It was.
I'm so glad that we finally had you on here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you guys very much. This was a pleasure to talk about an album that means a lot to me. So thank you.
Shout out once again to Bill O'Connor, a heck of a teacher,
absolutely,
heck of a theater guy, really inspiring. Michael, do you want to talk about what our standout track was from this album?
I've been waiting all night for this.
I sure do, and I'm thinking, depending on whether or not Spotify will let us do this, I actually think that it might make the most sense to put these 2 songs. I don't know if Spotify lets it happen, but I think it would make sense because we definitely got to hear "Stop, Do Not Go On."
Yes.
And have to.
And it feels like in order to get the completion, we got to put "Who Is This Man" right after it. So we're gonna see if Spotify will let us do this. To put the 2 songs back to back, because I mean it's just perfect, and I mean this is the song, this is the video, the clip that I always showed my theater history class, because I don't know, it just feels like, I know we were talking about like oldies and R&B and Motown and whatnot earlier on, like this feels like the closest, like the most striking resemblance to that sort of Motown sound.
Yes.
Yeah. And for me it's just, I mean, when I was re-listening to the album this week, I think I sent Tyler the text pretty early on, like it stopped, do not go on, and that's what we're doing.
This has been happening that we every now and then we'll sync up totally on what we think it should be, and this one was without a doubt our choice.
This is a perfect one. It is a musical fight scene.
It is. That's
created in it is you are watching these titans of gospel, the Blind Boys versus the Soulsters, go at each other. This did for gospel fans what Heat did for Italians. This is De Niro versus Pacino, but in gospel form. It's incredible. You all are in for a treat. They chose wisely.
Sam Butler.
Who's the guitarist? He's the guitarist.
Thank you for this. Everybody, hope you have a great week and enjoy this little twofer here at the end. And we'll be seeing you soon. So long.
Bye.